Hi there everybody, Dave here from HeyUGuys, and today we are doing something a little bit different. We're going to do a trailer breakdown of what looks like an amazing film. I'm sure it's going to be. I am joined by the wonderful Scott Davis, who loves all these sort of things. He loves a trailer breakdown. Who doesn't? And as always, if you don't already, please do like and subscribe using the button below. Where is it, Scott? Just sort of...
And there.
That way.
Yeah.
Put us in the comments what you think of the trailer. If we've missed anything, if there's Easter eggs that you spotted that we didn't, then let us know. But yeah, as always, do participate. So Scott, today we're going to talk about Tenet. Now, So I personally didn't know much about this film at all. I like going into the cinema completely blind, not knowing anything about it. And Tenet is one I know nothing about. So this trailer, but the trouble with doing this job that we do, where we review movies, is we have to watch everything. So, but that said, people like yourself will write up the review of it or the news on it or etc. So I can try and stay away from seeing the actual trailer and I'll just read about it. But the trailer today, or dropped last night, straight away the music kicks in, and I'm like, yes, Christopher Nolan. So Scott, what is Tenet? And yeah, set the scene, or what we know of it, because I'm sure there's loads we don't.
Well, what we know so far, or as you have said, is the new Christopher Nolan movie, which for audiences at the moment, particularly in the last 10 years, it is a kind of such a huge event when his movies come out now.
He's made a few others, hasn't he, that have done all right.
Yeah. He's made Following and Memento and Insomnia, smaller movies. So he's branching out into something big here. Well, of course not. They're all events. Since he did Batman Begins, every single movie pretty much has been an event. And over the years with Inception, with Interstellar, with Dunkirk especially, I think Dunkirk, particularly for British audiences, was such a big deal and so well done and so kind of commemorative and celebratory of the efforts of those men in the war. I think it's still in the top, I might be wrong, in the top 10 grossing films of all time in the UK, potentially. Don't quote me on that, but I think Dunkirk was the one that he's done all these amazing kind of sci-fi, mind-bending action thriller genre pieces, but Dunkirk was the first time he did something about real life, and I think that went down well with a lot of people. But what we know about Tenet is not a lot, because Nolan is such a secretive man. He very rarely gives away anything, whether it's to him himself giving anything away. When the synopsis comes out or the poster comes out or the first trailer, you don't get a lot of description. You just kind of get what you get and you have to make your mind up. But that's the great thing about Nolan's movies, aside from, say, Dunkirk, in that there's so much mystery and so much speculation about what it's about and what it could be about. That's part of the charm of his movies. And like you say, people don't want it spoiled, but he's so good, and Warner Brothers, who he tends to make his movies with, are so good at protecting his vision for the big screen, for you to go in thinking you know it, and then seeing the film and going, I knew nothing. It was a complete kind of 360 turn. I think with Tenet, they've done so well with keeping it very vague as to what it's really about, but such is the event for his movies. And you can see now there's not many directors out there, apart from the Scorseses and the Spielbergs and everything else, where just his name alone on the trailer in the first 10, 15 seconds is that straight away everyone's like, yeah, I'm going to buy my ticket for that.
Yeah, well, straight away. I mean, they put up his name, and then the sort of these are the more recent films that he's done: Dark Knight trilogy, Inception, Dunkirk, as we've already mentioned. And you're hooked. So let's crack on. Let's talk about the trailer. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch the trailer here, but we're going to put up screenshots so that you can see what we're talking about. So let's see where we start. So we start off with a shot of a bow of a ship. Let's face it, ships are cool. There's another ship, which looks more like lifeboaty. I think that's probably shot off Scotland, isn't it? Where the
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it to me. But yeah, the music, I looked up who did the music, and it's in the credits at the end, and it's by Ludwig, and forgive me if I get this wrong, Göransson. So Ludwig Göransson, and the score straight away drags you in, and it's that sort of epic Batman, all of these scores, all of the movies that we've just talked about that he's done before. He's a genius at that. He's great at getting the right composer in. So you're hooked in. And then where do we go then, Scott?
So then we go from the boat and we go onto the boat. What you will see from the first bit of the boat is that the boat is actually moving backwards. If you're seeing that, the book is actually moving backwards. So, and then in the first shot, you see the John David Washington, of course, from Black Klansman, who is the lead of the movie, meeting Martin Donovan's character, and he says to him, all you need is, I'm paraphrasing, but he says, I've just got one word for you, Tenet. And so a Christopher Nolan movie, that could mean lots of different things. But from what we'll go through the trailer as we go, but I think the Tenet, it sounds like is the organization or the people that have recruited him in whatever way for their, we'll go through it in the trailer, not to go through it just yet, but
like Tenet, you said, vagueness.
It's very vague,
here,
but it sounds like the word Tenet is the organization, or the covert organization that, as we know from the previous trailer, there's a potential World War III on the horizon, and they're going to use their specific skill set to try and stop that from happening. So you see John David Washington in the next bit, I think either inside the boat or in a restaurant, you see him with these guys.
It looks to me like he's on. Well, I thought assumed it was a galley of the ship, but maybe it isn't.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, I think it looks like a similar suit, but yeah, he fights these guys. But you'll notice from some of the shots, not all of them, that some play forward and then they play backwards. They play forwards and then they play backwards. This one is pretty forwards, and then you see Elizabeth Debicki's character.
Debicki,
yeah, who, putting pieces together, may or may not be the wife or mistress of the villain of the piece, which we will come on to shortly, because there's a few shots in the previous trailer that show her with said person. So he's protecting her for whatever reason, or he's trying to get to her potentially. There she is going off. But yeah, she has a big role to play by the looks of it, and she might be kind of the key for them to get to who they really want to get to in many ways.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's very, very action-packed from the get-go.
Yeah, it's good to see John David Washington doing this, because obviously his dad is an absolute megastar, and he, we knew him in Black Klansman. That's what I saw him in first, but he's an amazing actor. He's been around for a long time. He's produced a lot of Denzel's films as well, but it's good to see him at the forefront.
Yeah, I think anyone that saw Black Klansman just saw just how talented he was, and there was a few discussions of nepotism in terms of Spike Lee casting because of his relationship with his dad, but actually he cast him off of a process. But he in the movie and him with Adam Driver in that movie were just so good in a film, that's part funny because of the absurdity of it, but part very, very important and very timely. Yeah. And he's just jumped off of that. And I presume, in terms of casting, I think Nolan's probably seen knowing Nolan as him in his place in Hollywood, has probably seen an early version of the film and gone, that's the guy I want.
Yeah.
And you don't turn Nolan down, do you? If he comes and knocking with the lead role, you're just like, yep.
I'm available. So we carry on. John David Washington, he then comes into this weird harness thing, which sort of sees him bouncing up a wall, and we see him climbing up a building.
Yeah.
Which I wondered if it was the same building where we then go into, and this was sort of a test to get him in, where he's reveals these two drawers where he talks to Clémence Poésy and who asks about World War III, and this is where things start to unravel about the fact that things are a little bit backwards, and you start thinking, time travel or something different. Again, vague.
Yeah, very vague. Which he says in that, as you look at what he's doing, he's kind of, whatever that is, he's putting it together in a strange way. Part of the test is to, as we see from the trailer, we'll talk about it as we go through the trailer, but there's obviously something going on where things are played backwards and forwards at the same time, or he's able to kind of manipulate in between the time frame. So she says to him about the World War III thing again, I believe, in this bit of the trailer, and says that's what they're trying to prevent, but when they're not trying to prevent it in the way that you would expect special forces or the army or whatever to go and solve it, if you like.
Then they mentioned this dude called Christopher Nolan, which we've covered.
Dude again.
Back to a boat. Boat's cool. And then this guy. Go on, Scott. I bet you can do an impression, can't you? You're good at impressions.
Michael Caine.
That's not your best. That's not as good as your Mrs.
No. What's he saying? He says in Batman Begins. What does he say? He says, Bale says to him, "I thought you'd given up on me." And he goes, "Never," like that, in like a really Cockney accent. But I can't do very good Michael Caine. Mrs. Doubtfire, yes. Michael Caine, no. But there's
Can you do
some
Can you
Michael
do
Caine.
Michael Caine as Mrs. Doubtfire? That would be good. Say,
No,
say
I'm not.
you're only
We want
supposed
people to
blow
watch
the
this
bloody
video.
doors off in
We want
Mrs.
people to watch this
Doubtfire.
video, Dave. We want people to watch this video.
I
but
love
yeah,
Michael Caine so much.
there is Nolan's lucky charm. That's his lucky charm, is Sir Michael Caine. He's been in every single
it's
movie
interesting
since
because
Batman Begins.
every time Michael Caine says he's not going to do another movie, and then Nolan gives him this amazing script, and he can't say no. He said it in interviews, you know. He can't say no.
Yeah, well, the funny thing with this one that he said already is that he got given his scene. He shot for one day that scene, so he's obviously only in one scene because he's already said it, unless he pops up again. But he only got his page, and he obviously asked Nolan what's the film about, and Nolan was like, "Can't tell you." But he's used to that, I think. But yeah, he's become his lucky charm. He's been in every movie. He's not physically in Dunkirk, but you hear his voice.
Yeah.
He's like one of the commanders on the Tom Hardy's radio, I think, if I remember rightly, in Dunkirk, or the pilot's voice.
And then on to another well-known British actor in the form of Robert Pattinson, who looks like some very rich dude. Yeah, he's looking cool, isn't he? Suave and
he looks like Christopher Nolan. He looks like he's dressed like Christopher Nolan. That's the thing on Twitter. He's got blondish hair. He's got blondish hair, and then later in the trailer, he's wearing like a suit and a scarf like Christopher Nolan. So everyone's like, "I want him to look like me." So there they are. So yeah, Robert Pattinson, we believe from the trailers that he maybe works for. I think in the previous screenshot that you showed about the guys going up the building, I think the other guy is Robert Pattinson going up the building with him.
Oh, okay.
So I think the guy on the right, I think that's Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, you're right. I think you're right because there's a
shot there he is. Yeah, I think that's Robert Pattinson as well. So they obviously work for the same organization in terms of Tenet. I think it's Martin Donovan's character who's recruited him, but they're obviously going to become part of the same team and the same organization. So yeah, you see them kind of doing a mission of some description, or maybe they're undercover because they've got suits and they've got briefcases. It feels to me like they're kind of trying to infiltrate somewhere or something, which is pretty interesting. Maybe to do with the big villain that we will talk about.
It's quite James Bondy, Mission Impossible-y, isn't it? Where there's an organisation recruiting people for the greater good, Avengers style. It's that sort of theme, but obviously with a Nolan twist, I think. On to another British legend, Mr. Kenneth Branagh, with a Russian accent. Yes, with a Russian accent.
So he is we believe he is the big bad that we've talked about in this video so far. Russian. Whether he's to do with the Russian government, whether he's a Russian dictator, whether he's manipulating governments to try and start a World War III for his own gains, we don't quite know. But it's you'd imagine it's one of those things. But then the question would be: does Kenneth Branagh know about Tenet? Does he know about their abilities? Does he share their abilities? All those kind of things come into play. So there's not a lot about him, but you hear his Russian accent, which is very.
We've seen
James
him do
Bond.
a Russian accent before. What was it? What's the film he's done before where he had a Russian accent?
Was he Russian in Jack Ryan, the Jack Ryan reboot that he did?
Hang on, what was
Jack Ryan, a second lieutenant in the Marine Corps, travels to Russia to check on a businessman named Cheverin, played by Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah, there you go. Well done. This isn't Kenneth's first attempt at a Russian accent. He cut his teeth in Jack Ryan.
He cut his teeth in Jack Ryan.
Obviously, it went down well. Okay, moving on. We've got cool SAS-esque dudes. That's hard to say. And hey, cool SAS dudes are cool. Right, Scott?
In a nice neon red light as well. Gives it a nice John Wick tint.
And what we also find out is that Robert Pattinson makes a mean cup of coffee. See? Anyone for coffee?
Yeah. So it's him. He's dressed like Christopher Nolan. Look, the shirt and the hair. He's dressed like Christopher Nolan. But yeah, they're obviously teammates. But obviously in that sequence in the trailer, there's obviously bits where David Washington says about things that maybe he can do that Pattinson can't. So maybe there's a bit of intrigue there, or maybe a double cross somewhere down the line. We're just speculating. Obviously.
I had a thought. I wasn't convinced Pattinson was a goodie actually, but
me neither. But obviously that's all us. That's just us discussions. We'll say there's no spoilers in this because we don't know if it comes true. Then we are magic.
Yeah, we've guessed
but
right.
Yeah, there's
Sorry. So we go back to Clémence Poésy's sort of, it's like a Q-esque lair, isn't it, in the way? And she tells John David Washington to shoot, and he's not shooting, he's catching a bullet which was quite cool. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think this is must be part of his training to kind of decipher how to use the abilities that maybe he has now, which is the inversion of time. So he's shooting the bullet, but actually in reality, he's catching the bullet. So it's almost like a reverse kind of time thing. So it kind of touches on Inception in some ways, because that was about dreams and all those kind of things. But he's playing with time here, which is very interesting. He has this, a lot of his movies have quite a fascination with time and how you can manipulate time within the parameters of real life. Because obviously it's not about, because Pattinson says in the trailer about time travel, and John David Washington says, no, it's not time travel, it's inversion of time, which is a very interesting concept. But Nolan's brain works in such a way that he's probably the only one that could kind of conceive, because he's written this as well.
Yeah,
he's the only one that could kind of conceive of this. And everyone that you've seen going through Memento, Inception, Interstellar, all that kind of stuff, he's always, kind of looking at time and how you could maybe manipulate it in a real setting. But obviously it's slightly heightened in this one because you can't invert time. But it's very interesting. It's very curious cat, is old Nolan.
Yeah. We then see, now this is an inside info. Now this building that he walks into here, I'm not going to say the name of it, but I'm pretty sure I've worked in this building, and you're not allowed to take photos inside of it. It's next door to Charles and Camilla's residence in London. And I'm pretty sure that's it. It's all out of focus, so I might be wrong, but it looks very much like it. So that's cool. And it wouldn't surprise me if Warner Brothers were able to get into that building and film inside of it.
I wouldn't even say Warner Brothers. I'd say Nolan himself.
Nolan, yeah.
just Nolan, yeah.
I like this shot because this is the shot that sort of says that the world is at stake. This is I'm taking my kids to school, and we need to remember that there's people outside of all of the the action heroes that are real and need to be looked after. So that's that shot, and then we get introduced to another character here, Scott.
I don't know much about this character because there's on the Wikipedia and stuff, the character names haven't quite been revealed just yet. But that's Himesh Patel, who you might remember from Yesterday and The Aeronauts that came out last year. He joins up with them, whether he's part of the organization or whether he's just a facilitator of some description. We don't know, but yeah, he's the guy that he was the lead in Yesterday last year, the film about the Beatles, and he was in The Aeronauts as well. So very, really good. He good in both of those, Himesh Patel. So yeah, curious character again. It's again with Nolan, unless it's a Batman movie where you can't get away from the character names, he won't give you any. Oh, and Dunkirk obviously because it's real people, but he doesn't give much away.
No. Kenneth Branagh wearing a gas mask. This you see them wearing gas masks a fair bit actually from this point in the trailer onwards, and so there's obviously some chemical issue somewhere that someone's fired or launched, or dirty bomb or whatever's gone off. But again, we don't really know. But this was one of my favorite sequences in the trailer where we see John David Washington, basically being beaten up by a train track, and then this awesome stunt where I'm pretty sure it's a CG car, this Saab, but it flips over and over and over again, and then it sort of converts back into being completely fine, whilst all this is happening, high speed chase.
I would say my two comments on that would be the first one, the shot that you showed before of him on the train track. I think that's, in the first trailer, you see him swallow a cyanide capsule, which is, the capsule that agents take before they get tortured or before they can give any information away. So I think this is the moment where he dies, but it's part of this group recruitment where he gets revived and then he's able to join Tenet. So I think he's obviously connected to some, whether it's the British intelligence, whether it's some American intelligence, let's say CIA, FBI or whatever, to try and get information maybe about Branagh's character, maybe about Tenet itself. I don't quite know. But then I think the car chase is obviously a separate thing. But I think that connects to the shot of Branagh with the mask on in the cars. I think that's all one big. Yeah, that's all one big kind of freeway chase
piece. Yeah,
yeah, it's kind of reminiscent in a way. Well. Yeah, and there's Branagh again, isn't there?
He's got his mask on there, isn't he?
Yeah, it's very reminiscent. My first thought was the Matrix Reloaded, when they did that massive freeway chase where they built a freeway just so they could do it. But I will say, I don't think that car's CGI. It's Nolan. There's definitely a car at the hub of it for sure.
That car is CGI. That is CG.
No, I think that's a real car. That's a real car. Maybe it's as Nolan always says. He always, if he can, will augment things with CGI. But there's a real car crash
body
there.
of a car. So have a look.
Yeah,
Let us know in the comments what you think. But so if you when I watched Deadpool, I thought there's no way that the CG is that good, that the physics could be as good where they destroyed all the cars. But then I watched the behind the scenes and saw how they made the cars in the computer, and it blew my mind. And so if I hadn't seen that, I would have agreed with you. But I'm pretty sure that maybe you're right. Maybe that is an element of a car, and then they've CG'd it up. But
I think he's always in favor of doing it for real if he can, and then augmented it with CGI, which obviously for stuff like this, Interstellar and Inception and Batman to a degree, you can't do those things in the real world, but you can have a big canvas of something, but as long as the thing in the middle is real, everything else just accentuates it, but it feels real is what he goes for, I think.
Absolutely right. A cool boat. I mean, we don't know what the boat's about, but hey, it was cool. And then this
cool boats in this trailer.
Lots of cool boats. Now this section here was interesting because you see Robert Pattinson looking at these bullet holes, and then John David Washington says, "This hasn't happened yet." I don't think this has happened yet. And then it cuts to the shot of him actually having a fight with somebody else, with the windows being shot at. We then cut to this huge auditorium, which again looks like these are all real people. So Nolan's got a lot of NDAs that have been signed for this one, and we see a massive sequence going on there with them fighting, and actually a huge explosion in the I don't know where that is. It's not the Royal Albert Hall. Actually, maybe. No, I don't think. I'm pretty sure it's not the Royal Albert Hall.
It's too.
They're too tiered. The seats aren't as tiered.
The only thing I thought of, it's obviously like an opera house or like a United Nations meeting or something. A big auditorium. So it might be in Russia. If it's a Russian, it might be that it's set in.
Yeah, let us know if you know where that is. People watching, let us know where that is. What's next? We see again. We need a better name. What can we call him? JDW. We see another explosion. I mean, explosions are cool, like boats.
I think that's the same place as the Russia, the auditorium. I think that is the same building. It looks like it. Yeah, I think it's the same building. Yeah.
Then we see him with his mask on, which, I mean, maybe this is training for something further down the line.
Again with Nolan's shots, the way his kind of mise en scène and how he does things, that the way the light moves, you feel like he's watching, or like a door's opening,
it goes
something's opening in front of him.
Hang on, I can do a nice merge cut. Look at this. Whee.
There you go. Yeah. So he's looking at something, but what's he looking at? Is he looking out of a building? Is he looking at something or someone approaching? Maybe the door's open and Branagh. I don't know. It's there's lots of cool shots in Nolan's films.
There are. And then we come to the end. It comes up with the sort of the credits of who's done it, but then we cut back to this sequence here with Pattinson and Washington, where it's quite funny, where he basically says nothing too dramatic, but I want to crash a plane into a building, to which John says, well, okay, what size plane? And he goes, that's the dramatic bit. And then it cuts to this 747 smashing through an aircraft hangar. Craziness ensues. So I'm sold on that.
Looks like a real plane.
Yeah, I mean, does it look so? Yeah, that does look like a real plane. And then this bit at the end here. Now, I wouldn't normally just better coming in theatres slide up. However, we are in unprecedented times, and this has been something we've been talking about for ages. And I think this is very intentional. This isn't we're ever going to go to, home end, because let's face it, it's a Nolan film and we wouldn't want it to. So I like that a lot. It doesn't have a release date. Oh, sorry, it does have a release date. Scott, when is the release date?
The release date is scheduled for July the 17th.
So it does have a release date. That is from the date of recording. That is May, June, July, two months away, which isn't very long.
Just under 2 months,
We're in a COVID world. And at the minute, Warner Brothers are sticking to that release date. I don't see, personally, it staying there. But I'm more than happy to be wrong. I think people aren't going to want to... It's social distancing. People aren't going to... Either legally, we're not allowed to be sat that close to each other, or people won't want to because they still want a social distance, because of their own personal reasons, which is completely valid as well. So we shall see. But all that said, bloody good trailer.
It's a bloody good trailer. I think it's very telling that they have released a trailer, because, as you say, the theaters and everything else, they could have quite easily not released a trailer, because I think, reading on Twitter, this week is the first week we've had not one but two studio released films. We had this, and then a couple of days ago we had the trailer for Antebellum, which is the new Blumhouse movie, which comes out in August, which got pushed back from March or April, I think. So it's been pushed back. But the fact that we're starting, because we went a long way with just getting trailers for films that were going to go into VOD anyway, films that were going to have small releases that are now going to VOD. But we've not had any trailers for anything big. And the fact that we've had a new trailer for the biggest movie. Yeah, this is a tentpole film.
Warner Brothers tentpole movie,
Yeah, it's obviously cost a lot of money. I think that's why they've taken out the release date, but amped up the fact that it is coming to theaters, not necessarily on July the 17th, but it is going to be in the theater whenever that might be. But from what I've read, what the caveat is at the moment, that if they need at least 80% of cinemas to be reopened in the US to be able to release it, doesn't mean to say 80% of them have to be open full capacity, because they won't be able to. But I think they're looking at potentially, if it's feasible, a release plan where they release it in, say, rather than the 4,500 screens they would normally, is maybe like 100 screens, and play all the way to the end of the year. So have it like in a very old-fashioned kind of way, where something like Star Wars would come out in a handful of screens, but then it would play and play and play and play. And this,
I just don't see that being able to be happening.
It's a lot of money. That's the thing. It's a lot of money. I think if it wasn't Nolan, I think they might very well say, look, we've got to put it on video on demand, or we've got to give people the option to watch it on premium. But Nolan, very much about the cinema experience. It'd be the same if there was a Tarantino film coming out, or a Spielberg film. Very much, no, it's got to be shown in the cinemas. If it has to be delayed, it has to be delayed. But until that time comes, we're still going to stick to our guns. But they haven't changed it yet, which is a little bit telling.
Well, I agree with you and disagree with you, because I don't see how. So cinemas and studios have they have to get their films in the cinema, and there's no way that Tenet, unless it does Avatar money or Endgame money, can stay in the cinema for as long as that, because it could do is if the showings got reduced, because they have to allow space for the other films that are released from different studios to be able to be seen in the cinema. But the other thing that we haven't even mentioned is the fact that the US, the UK, the rest of Europe, the rest of the world will all be reopening cinemas and things at different times. So it's quite possible they'll do a staggered release, but then you've got piracy as well. So it's a tricky one. Like, do they hold off until the world is at a better place than it currently is, or do they do a staggered release and have it in different places at different times? It's going to be weird.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would say, not back to you, but back to that particular thought, shall we say, is that there's not a lot coming out between July and September. Not a lot. Apart from Tenet, there's maybe Mulan. I think there's the SpongeBob movie still scheduled to come out, and then Wonder Woman. So there's not a lot. And speaking to a friend of mine, or a friend of ours that we know works in the cinema, there could be, I mean, this is all speculation obviously, but there could be a way that it plays because there's not anything else to show. So in some of the cinemas overseas, they've been showing like all the Avengers movies back to back. They've been showing, I think in France, is it France or somewhere in Europe, they're going to show the Dark Knight trilogy, like as something to have in the cinema to try and get people to come in slowly but surely, and maybe re-show. I think I read they might show, some cinemas might re-show the Joker, and they might re-show films from last year. Some of the old. I think I read some of them might show Skyfall and Spectre before Bond comes out. All those just to slowly get people back. But with Tenet, there's not a lot else out, so could work in its favor. But it's a big gamble for a big gamble. Like, it's a big gamble anyway because it costs so much money and it's a Nolan movie. So to then add another gamble on top of that might be one stretch too far. But if anyone gets to maybe do it, it's probably Nolan. But I think even he, with a family and knowing what's going on, movies aren't as important as people being safe.
Fact. Well said.
Fact.
So there we go. So let us know. That's gone on very long. It's half an hour long of a trailer breakdown. But well, I'll make it like 25 minutes. But that was really cool. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
So do let us know in the comments what you think of the trailer. Don't forget to subscribe. I keep getting the wrong way. That way. And yeah, let us know anything we've missed. I'm sure there's speculations about in theory. So do tell us in the comments what you think. Tell us if you think we're talking absolute rubbish, which let's face it, we do most of the time. Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you on the next Hey You Guys video that we make. Well, who knows what that'll be. But yeah, Space Force. We're going to do a Space Force review.
Space Force.
We've both seen it. We both flipping love it. And we can't wait to talk about it. So we'll see you on that. But yeah, let us know. Tenet, do you think it's going to come out in the cinema? When do you think it's going to come out in the cinema? And let us know what else you think. And there's a cameo from Scott's cat. And on that note, we'll see you later. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey